Happy day, everybody, and welcome back to Mortgage Talk and More. And I'm very excited about my guest today, and I'll introduce him in just a second. He is a master at networking. And networking is something that every business owner needs to know about and be able to do. I've been networking, if you will, for 40 years and not well. And it really wasn't until I read your book that I got a clue on really how to network well. That's why I thought I'd have you on here. His name is Dagan. And everywhere I go, Dagan's there. I feel like he's stalking me. He does have a last name, but he's really known around town as Dagan. It's kind of like Beyonce. You only need one name. You know, I can't do that. As Mark, I can't do that.
No.
But you can get away with it.
Yeah.
So I want to introduce my friend Dagan Martinez-Vargas.
Cool. Hello.
Hello.
Awesome to be here. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So tell us about your background and what got you into this interesting world of business networking.
Yeah. So one of the things that my background entails is I used to work in the alcohol industry. I used to work for Jack Daniels. And so 5 nights a week.
I've met Jack.
Yeah. 5 nights a week, we were out doing all types of events. And whether it was concerts or sporting events, going into bars, galas, nonprofits, events, all kinds of things, and networking. And we didn't have to sell Jack Daniels. It was creating the brand and networking, marketing it, promoting it. If you do that correctly, the sales would come. And so then when I got into other lines of work and started networking in other industries outside of the alcohol industry, people were like noticing that everything I did was different from what they'd seen.
That's right.
And what they're doing. And so they kept asking me, well, what are you doing?
Yeah.
How are you do what you do? How are you so good at selling? And I would tell them, I'm not good at selling.
Well, it's a good point because when I met you, it was through a networking group. And I forget what year it was, but it's been, I don't know, 6 or 7 years ago at least. And every time you would speak, I'm thinking that guy talks differently than anybody else.
Yeah.
You know, you have a different message, a different way of presenting your value. And then, you know, later on, of course, you've written this great book called Play the Room. And we want to talk about that too, kind of what inspired you to do that and how you're adding value to other businesses like mine. You know?
Yeah. Well, I would sit down with people. People would like, hey, can we do what is called a one-to-one? Most times what they call it. When you sit down over coffee, over lunch with another individual, and y'all go over all the different things that about each other's business. So you get to know each other.
Sure.
And I would sit down with them and I would talk about what I'm doing and all these kind of things. And they would talk about some of their things. And usually sometimes they would talk about some trial or tribulation they're going through. And I would offer a suggestion and they'd say, yeah, sure, I'll take one. And I would start telling them, well, you know, it'd be good if you did this or did that. And after the end of the meeting, they're like, oh my God, I've learned so much. And I've been doing things wrong, which probably means I've lost money. And I said, well, yes, you lost
you know
money.
You hadn't lost money. You hadn't made the money you could have.
Yeah, you would have made more money.
That's right.
But your messaging or whatever was wrong. And so people would say, Dagan, you should write a book.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't want to write a book. I was like that. I mean, I would love to have a book, but I don't want to write it.
Sure.
That's like a lot of time and energy. It
Sure.
just seemed exhausting. Well, after 40, 50 people of sitting down with and kept getting told that, I said, all right, fine, I'll write a book. And they said, you could get your message out to everyone. And then you don't have to sit down and keep repeating yourself over
Good
and
point.
over.
Good point.
So I was like,
it's
well,
got a great title, Play the Room, too.
Yes.
Which means it could be fun.
Right.
I mean, it could be a level of play to it.
It should be.
You
And
know?
I don't want you to read the room because I need you to engage. If you don't
Sure.
engage, you ruin the whole thing. So I want you to go in and play. And most people, when they network, they're so nervous. And you shouldn't have to be that nervous on talking to people.
I agree. And, you know, I majored in engineering in college, and I have a strong math background, being in the mortgage business and all that. That's what it kind of takes.
Yeah.
And I never had a really strong verbal skill set. But what I've come to realize in business is that communication is the key to business. You have to learn how to communicate. And that's what you're teaching people to do. You know,
Correct.
How to stand up and share their value with a room. It could be one-on-one or it could be a larger room, you know, but that's what you're teaching.
Yeah.
You know?
And what I'm teaching, you also do in the digital world.
Right.
People are usually doing the same mistakes across the board. And I even talk to people and they'll say something and I'll say, let me ask you this. Did you just sell me or was that promoting yourself?
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, that was promoting myself. I said, no, it wasn't. It was selling. And they're like, no, how was it selling? And then I explain it to them and they're like, wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was selling.
Yeah. Nobody really wants to be sold to.
No.
They want to learn something.
And
they want you to tell you why in the world would I want to use you or refer you? You know?
Right. And most of us try not to sell, but as soon as we start talking about ourselves, we're selling because that's just what our mind is used to. That's what we were raised as from all the other occupations we've had over our lives.
Yeah. And I know you network, well, not just with the real estate people, but we talked about this before the show. The real estate community is realtors and lenders and title people. And we're all kind of guilty of the same thing. Kind of share that with the public a little bit.
Yeah. It's funny. They're some of the biggest abusers on accident of such things.
Yeah. We just don't know better.
Yeah. And that's okay. Because they're the people in their organization are like, sell you. Your realtors aren't selling homes. They're selling themselves. But then all they're doing is selling. They're not promoting.
They're not branding properly.
Right.
Sure.
And so a perfect example is they'll make a posting and say on Facebook, let's say, and say, I'm selling that this house is for sale in this zip code. It's got this many square feet. It's this price. And the kids go to school in this district. Well, one, that's an ad. It's literally no different than an ad. You gave me all the things of an ad.
Yeah.
When I asked them, is that an ad? They're like, no, they start getting confused.
Yeah.
And then I say, you're not going to get people that are going to like that because on top of that, Facebook is going to say, hey, Dagan likes ads. So we're going to send him more. So I'm not going to like your post because I don't want to. Or I might like a post. I'm sorry. I might like the picture of the house, but that doesn't mean I have any care in the world on buying because I just bought a house.
Point. Right.
And then the realtor, because they told me everything, why do I got to reach out to the realtor? I already know everything. And I know everything that's going to not want me to buy the house. Maybe it's in the wrong zip code or in the wrong price.
Sure.
But if I say, hey, I love this house, it's nestled in this area and the pool overlooks the hill country.
Okay.
And I just leave it at that.
You position it differently as far as language.
It's just positioning. It's messaging.
Yes. Messaging.
And guess what happens? Then Mark reaches out on Facebook and says, hey, Dagan,
tell me more.
What's the price of it? Or what zip code is it in?
Right.
Oh, so now Mark is interested either for himself or someone in his network.
That's a good point.
And now you're asking me a question or two. That's called engagement.
Right.
Which is what realtors want or anyone in the mortgage industry.
Yeah, they want an opportunity to speak to somebody.
So now you're creating people to reach out to you. And now you know specifically who is looking at maybe buying a home.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you can sit there and then say, this is the price of the house. Is that within the budget that whoever you're looking for is thinking?
Down a path.
And they're like, no, that's too expensive. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Well, we have others.
We have others. There you go. See, there now comes the selling.
Right.
But you marketed and promoted yourself properly the first time.
To speak to them the first
instead
place.
of what I call verbal diarrhea selling on me.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's a huge example. And then
so is there much difference between networking and communicating in person versus social media, or is it all the same?
It's relatively the same. It's really understanding part of your ego and realizing that you need to be talking about the person on the other side of the table.
Yeah.
It's not about me. So if I sold a house, staying with the mortgage industry, a theme, if I just sold a house, mortgage industry people are the only occupation that goes around and says they sold a house. Like I did my job. Look at me.
And I want you to tell you all about it.
I sold a $500,000 house.
Right,
you know what that tells me? If my friend sold a $500,000, he needs to take me to dinner because I know I can do the math on the commission.
On the commission, yeah.
So why don't you tell me something else besides self-promotion? I don't see people, heart surgeons going, I saved 4 people today.
Right. I took out somebody's spleen or something.
Yeah,
you know?
or a car guy say, I sold 6 cars, I sold 4 Ferraris, or
Mhm. It's so good point, man.
I help people with insurance that helps them with health or cancer policies,
Yeah.
life
Talk
insurance.
about how you solved a problem.
Yeah.
A couple outgrew their house. They needed your help. Because real estate is solving problems.
Right.
You know?
And I don't go on and say, hey, I did da, 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 da. Now, if I hit a number and I took care of 100 families in a certain time period, I will mention that.
Sure.
But then also educate and show some value. If you're not educating or showing value, and again, an ad, that's not education, telling me the price, the zip code, and all those things.
Right.
And that's what happens. And a lot of times you need to ask the people, what are they looking for? So when you're networking, you just don't come up and start telling them.
Give us an
everything about
example
your
of how
job.
you engage people in let's say a formal in-person networking group. Because there's all
Yeah.
over the place.
Yeah.
There's paid types, where you pay fees like BNI, and then there's others that are, if you will, free.
Right.
But the engagement should be very similar. I would
To me,
think.
it's exactly the same. I treat them all the same. Now, some groups will be more intentional, especially if they're paid.
Yeah.
They'll be more intentional on
structure.
Yeah, well, on also giving and communicating properly and trying to share leads and referrals. But to me, it doesn't matter. I do the same messaging in a free group or in an inexpensive group or in an expensive group. It doesn't change anything. My game plan is the same every time. That's why when I play the room,
plan? When you coach people, let's say I came to you and say, hey man, I'm not very good at this.
Yeah.
Tell me what I should be saying and how I should be behaving in these groups. Can you kind of give me some insight to that?
Yeah. So one of the biggest things that, well, I'll start by saying introverts are the #1 group of people that visit a networking group. If there's one thing I get from everyone,
I didn't know that,
is they say, well, I don't network well because I'm an introvert. Well, networking was created for introverts. Extroverts don't need help. We can go and talk to a wall.
Yeah.
We can talk to someone in the grocery store
right.
or
In
at
an
our kids'
elevator.
karate or something.
Right.
Networking was created for introverts and to help them all get together and talk. So you're in your wheelhouse. You just don't think you are. But one of the biggest issues I see with all introverts or people in their business is they do not plan what they're going to say or do when they get there. I know before I show up to an event of any kind, I don't care what type of event it is, I know who I'm specifically looking for as a referral partner or client. I know exactly what I'm going to say. So every time if someone says, what do you do, Dagan? Or why are you here? Or what brought you here? No matter how you word it, I'm going to say, oh, well, I help small businesses and families from going bankrupt due to medical catastrophes.
Yeah. That's your business.
That's my business.
Yeah.
I say that every time.
Yeah.
Nowhere in there did I say insurance.
That's right.
Nowhere did I say life guy. I'm not saying realtor. If you're a realtor, I sell the dream. I sell the American dream. It might sound cheesy at first, but if you say it 100 times while you're in the shower or you're brushing your teeth,
it comes natural.
It comes natural and it's not cheesy.
No, it's not. It's almost like saying hello.
Yeah. And a little cheese is okay.
It's okay because that's actually what they do.
That's what every commercial does.
I bought several homes over the years and I've loved the process every single time. It can be a little painful getting to the mortgage stuff, but that's another conversation.
Yeah.
But it is, I love my properties. I love living in them, so that is if you will, the American dream. I think that's what most people want.
Yeah.
So that's not cheesy to say that.
And most of the time, if I ask someone, well, what do you do? Well, so what I do, it's kind of complicated. No, it's not. See, you messed up already. Stop.
I tune you out.
Turn around.
Right.
Let's start over.
Right.
Because it's not. If Steve Jobs can launch a smartphone on a national stage with just some pictures behind them, you can easily talk about whatever you do easily. It's just you didn't practice on and you can just do it on the drive over there and say, this is what I'm going to say. And it's what you say every single time. And I even know after I say what I did, I already know no matter what response you say, I already know the second sentence that's coming out of my mouth.
And I want to plug a book real quick because you talked about the words exactly what to say. And there's a book out there called Exactly What to Say. It might be beneficial to people to kind of learn some of that language. Not so much it's in networking, but it's in everyday conversation with a spouse too.
Right.
because it's question based. You have to learn how to ask good questions. That's how you get to know people.
Right.
Agreed?
And yes, and it's not just, it's also, when I say play the room, one of the ways I start talking in the book is, it's not checkers, it's chess. Chess is about strategy and knowing what you're going to do and know what the other person's going to do. Checkers is just show up and start moving pieces back and forth across the board. And so it's a different strategy. So it's not just even what you're saying, it's what you're doing, what you're presenting. Like, my business cards are easy to read. I've looked at everything on my business card that means something and why it's there and what its purpose is. There's a picture of me on there. There's my logo on there. My name tag. I have my own name tag. I don't put stickers on my clothes. That doesn't look professional. And the stickers never stay on most of the time.
They leave a mark,
and it's your handwriting. Oh yeah, you got to. Then I've had to take something to the dry cleaner because they left a mark.
I spend money, left a mark on my jacket.
I have a magnetic one, and there's a lot of times I get people like, "Wow, you have a professional."
You're not
name
wearing
tag.
it right now.
No,
I know who you are.
Because I knew
It's
you were going to
Dagan.
introduce
Everybody
me.
knows Dagan.
So, it's all about what you're doing the entire process, and introverts will feel more comfortable if they plan what they're going to do before they get there. The biggest reason people are nervous is because they didn't practice anything. Now, why do you practice how to sell? If I sit down and I say, hey, I want to buy a home, I guarantee you have your process from beginning to end. You have first base, second, third base, all the way to home run on selling me.
You'd hope so.
But if you're not practicing how to hit the ball when the pitcher throws, you're never going to get on first base, which means we're never going to sit down and talk about buying a home. So everyone practices the selling process, but they're not practicing the messaging that gets you to sit down. So when I walk in a room and I say, what do you do? If you don't know specifically word for word and have it memorized, why should I trust you with my $100,000 client to sell him what you have?
You're
not even prepared on what you say.
And again, networking is not one of those things that you learn in school.
No,
there's no classes on networking per se. Maybe in some businesses there are, but so I would assume about 95% of the networking done is probably worthless. Or maybe not that much, but a large percent. Because and one of the reasons is you walk into a room with 30 people, let's say, and maybe you know some and maybe you don't know some, but most people try to meet too many people too.
Correct.
Where you may want to focus on 2 or 3 more intimate conversations. Would you agree with that?
I would agree. And one of the big issues that happens is people go into a room and start talking to the ones they know the best.
Right. They already know them.
And
they had lunch with
them. And I know if I were to see you at an event, I would talk. I'd say, what's up? And maybe some. And the first 2 questions I'll ask once we get the pleasantries out of the way is there neat that also sells it, because PNC agent, financial advisors, those are great referral partners for me. I say, hey, have you met any? Oh, there's a guy over. Now, if there's no guy over there, no matter what your answer is, I'm like, cool, Mark. Well, we know each other. So we need to stop talking to each other.
See you later.
You go mingle, go make some business. I'll go make, and think of me when you're over there, and I'll think of you.
Yeah.
And so I will literally tell people, we need to stop talking.
Yeah.
If we want to talk more, we can go have coffee.
Well, yeah, we have lunch this week. Or whatever. Yeah.
But we're not here for that. And people will sit there and talk too long. Or another big mistake is you'll come up to me like, oh, really, Dagan? Yeah, I've been interested in getting disability policy. Well, guess what? I'm going to get super excited and I'll be like, oh my God, I got to sell right here.
Right.
Okay. Well, here, let me tell you everything about a disability policy and why you need it and what's going on. And I try to sell you right there. Instead, it's like, oh, cool. Yeah. Why do you think you need it? As soon as you answer me, I'm like, cool. Yeah. Let's connect about that. Who are you here to meet? What can I help you with?
Oh, I love that.
We go away from the sell. We're not there to sell. We're there to network. We're all extensions of a sales force. We're not there to sell each other.
I like
that can be done at a next meeting.
But having said that, and I like that strategy, but having said that, you also have to have a follow-up strategy as well. I mean, you can't expect somebody to follow up with you. Would you agree?
Yes,
And is that off base?
I expect
tell me
everyone.
about that. What
Yes.
would you do the next day? Let's say if somebody actually
Right.
said, "Hey, man, I'm really been thinking about this disability stuff."
Yeah, I expect everyone to fail on follow-up.
Yes.
Everyone, including my own family members. I will expect that because that life happens.
That's why you're not disappointed.
Yeah.
If you expect it.
Yeah, if you're not disappointed, you're not mad. So one of the things I do is if someone is interested in something, if I have their card, I try to write it on there.
Okay.
I usually have a marker in my car, in my backpack. Markers work because a lot of times pins won't write on certain cards. Or I'll make a note in my phone, or I'll text them right away and put that in there. But something, because depending when you met them that day, you might not remember by the next morning. If they're just a connection, or we're just looking at doing something, I'll try to connect with them right away on LinkedIn.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Because there you see their picture and all their business profile, and you get to see everything they do, and it's a great reference for later. Especially when you met 5 or 6 people in a night, you might be like, "Wait, he said specifically, what does he do?" And so that's where LinkedIn comes in real handy.
That's a good point.
Some people that are listening might be like, "Well, but I don't have a LinkedIn." Well, that's problem number one.
Right.
You got to go get a LinkedIn.
That's where business people hang out.
Yeah. It's the number one business platform in America.
For sure.
So
not even close. Anything else.
You should be on it no matter if you like it. If you like to or not, you should be on it.
Yep.
And
I'm trying to learn the LinkedIn better. I mean, I'm on it and all that, but I don't participate too fully. But I think you're right on spot.
Yeah. And normally I try to hit them up on LinkedIn, and then I will send them an email, but I'll usually at the where you hit the send button, you can hit that down arrow to send it later as opposed to this minute.
Okay.
And I'll post that to send the next morning. So I don't bombard them with a LinkedIn request, an email, a Facebook.
Yeah. Good point.
I will usually ask people if we can connect on Facebook, if I think that's worth it.
Okay.
I have kids on my Facebook. Some people hit me up after they had a 5-second conversation with me, and I feel that's like, I'm like, why didn't you email me or text me or hit me up on LinkedIn first? They go right to Facebook.
Yeah, let's date a little bit first.
Exactly. But Facebook is great because that's where a lot of referrals come from.
Yeah.
So
a lot of people hanging out there too, So we got a few more minutes. Let's talk about preparing for a networking group. Talk about, you mentioned it, but talk specifically about how somebody should prepare. What to say or who they want to look for. Or in a meeting.
Yeah. So you say, I don't know who that is, or everyone buys, it's all across the board. That's not true.
No.
If you sold enough of your product, you have an avatar. You have the person that buys from you the most.
A persona, if you will. Somebody,
Is that a single
married couple?
Is that a single mom? Yeah, married couple? Is it someone who's older? Is it younger?
Right.
There's all different demographics that you should be able to find out and know that that's your person. But also looking at not only who buys from you the most, but who's the best person that sends you referrals.
Mm-hmm.
If you're orthodontist, you're probably going to say other dentists.
Dentist, yeah.
So that one's an easy one. But for a lot of other people, your electricians, are going to get a lot from plumbers, and vice versa. And the roofers, the contractors all hang out in the same arena. But knowing that
subsections of a networking group,
right?
Financial, maybe construction, whatever.
And then know what you're going to say. And I say write it down.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't say if you look at all my signature lines, I'm a crap hits the fan consultant.
Mm-hmm.
I don't say insurance guy,
right?
Because that scares people away. It's not interesting,
right?
But every time I tell people I'm a crap hits the fan consultant,
well, share a little bit about that too, and I want to make sure they know how to get a hold of you. Share your business with people too. Like we've covered the networking, but I want to talk about your business for the next couple minutes.
Yeah, so I'm an independent broker, so I shop around for individuals and businesses and help them from. Again, here's another tag: all insurance on humans. So I cover everything from health, dental, vision, life, disability. If it's on a human, I do it. Since I don't do the cars and houses and properties, I don't talk about those. So that's one of my tags is I help all insurance on humans.
I like that.
And
people can relate
shop
to
around
that.
for them. Right.
And
I help them in that arena. And because of that shopping around, I'm able to find them the lowest prices and things that work for their business. And I do individual and group. Sometimes what people don't realize is a group of 4 or 5 people in a business, they might not be best to be in a group. It might be better to be individual coverage. So I'm not trying to cram something down there because that's what my bosses tell me or whatnot.
Right,
So
right.
shop all the way around. And because insurance isn't fun, I make it fun. So everything I say, everything I do is meant to be engaging so that you know, like, and trust me.
Sure. Well, tell people how to get a hold of you. I mean, they could just Google Dagan. You'll probably show up.
Yeah.
Dagan, as I recall.
I know there'll be a few of us probably across the nation.
Maybe.
But my email is usually the best way. Of course, you can find me on LinkedIn, Dagan Martinez-Vargas. I'm on LinkedIn. But the number one reason people come to me when I ask them why you came to me, usually because someone in their circle got hit with cancer, heart, or an accident issue.
Okay.
So I named my company CHA Lifeguard, the CHA for cancer, heart, accident, and then Lifeguard because I keep people from drowning in debt. Again, another tagline.
I like that.
So it's Dagan, all A's, DAGAN at CHALifeguard.com.
Cool. Very good. Well, we are fixing to wrap this thing up. I really appreciate it because I've learned some stuff and I'm going to change the way I present my message too, and we're going to talk about that some more offline. Okay.
Sure.
Because I need some help.
Yeah. And by the way, the book is found on all online bookstores. So Amazon and Barnes and Nobles, along with any other one that you like to use.
It's a great book. And I love the name. Play the Room.